1, 2, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2. Let's see if we can have a sound check out. Ooh. Huh. Sometimes I love to have improvements in the software. Let me check anyway, just to be totally sure, because we all know I'm the master of doing it wrong. Okay. And we got confirmation. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, good whatever you're enjoying at this particular time when you're watching these 6 oscillators, this new issue of 6 oscillators where guitars and synthesizers collide. This is strange intersection between boots with wires and ivories and ebonies doing whooshy sounds. Welcome one more night, and thank you so much for coming back and in search of some, if not knowledge or information, at least a sense of you're welcome somewhere. Because if you're also interested in synthesizers and or guitar synthesizers and or guitars, any of those niche, in a way of speaking, niche parts of those two technologies that apparently many other channels don't deem necessary to cover, and I live by them. I think that they're kind of the only sense of my existence. So you're home, you're with friends, you're where you might want to be. Let me just remind you before I forget again, first, full disclosure, none of the products, brands, models, technologies, software, items, and or any other type of musical gear you're gonna see or hear in this show today or ever, well, at least so far, has ever been provided by any of their manufacturers. All the gear that I show you is the gear I have and bought with my own money. I mean, I don't reject any kind of support by any manufacturer. It's just that we're a little too small for them. We're less than a pimple on a fleck of dust in the immensity of the universe, which allows me to say whatever the heck I want, whenever the heck I want, and however the heck I want. So yeah, be assured that anything you're gonna hear is my knowledge, my opinion, and my own, nobody else. And I wouldn't even claim that what I share with you is the final and ultimate truth, and there's no other one out there. No, there's many truths, there's many more information out there. I just like to share mine, if in case I happen to know something you don't, and or you forgot about it or never thought about it. Because we're all different. We all look technology and music on a different light, and we aim for different targets to achieve. Which kind of brings us to today's short. Well, it's going to be short because I don't want to make another 3-hour show, and I'm sure that many of you, or at least one of you, is saying, "Yeah, finally, one that I can actually watch and go." So today, I would like to go in this deep, not because it's detailed and informed, but just because I'm finicky and very geek about everything, and I like to know everything and anything and everything about the gear I use. That's mainly why I'm trying to build this community, so somebody can teach me the things I don't know, because I'm always eager to learn new stuff. So I like to show possibly the the less known side of the Roland guitar synthesizer family. Therefore, the GR moniker, most of them, and in particular the one I have, which is 55, GR-55, is, to my knowledge, is possibly the first of the units ever released that, although it's still capable of being triggered by both types of guitars, traditional 6-string guitar and up to 6 strings bass guitar, I think it made a little of a breakthrough by providing a specifically tailored capabilities and specifications and behaviors in the same unit instead of I remember when the 700 line, the 77, 707, and I think the 507, I always miss with that one. Basically, floor unit, I think it was a floor unit, probably rack unit with the brain, the connectivity, all the presets, and the synth engines that could either be bought, 2 floor units, 77 and 77B. I think I'm probably mixing facts right now, so please do your homework. So basically there were two units, one specifically for guitar, one specifically for bass, although those guitar and bass were proprietary, and they came with the GK technology, the divided pickup, inbuilt in the chassis, in the hardware. So no choice of guitar, so you have to buy the guitar and come to terms with it and enjoy it and cherish it, because that was your only option. Or bass, same thing. They also had a kind of, although appropriate for the early 80s time when they came out, or mid 80s, I think, aesthetics, they didn't age well. Even back then, it was a little far-fetched for, let's call, traditionally minded guitar players. Some of you may remember is those ones that I think they came in silver, black, and red, and they had a black arm bar stabilization device to connect the body with the headstock. So you had your fretboard and your neck, and on top of that another, I believe it was fiber or wood piece connecting the headstock and the body. Very, very futuristic design, hence that they didn't age well. Not to mention the problem of you could not decide, you could not even, I don't think you could even change the pickups for the analog side, for the traditional magnetic side of the guitar. But as I said, 55 came with the selling pitch that it was a dual unit. It was a guitar unit and a bass unit. What I myself got to learn once deep into it, because I said, oh great, that way it would allow me to test both things, the performance on guitar, which we already spoke long and slowly sometimes, has its drawbacks and shortcomings about performance, accuracy, etc., latency basically. And then what would be the performance for bass, that also at the time I was kind of transitioning towards on my analog side of music playing on the bands I was joining, I was asked to play bass. So I say, okay, sure. And since I got this unit, I say, great, let's go for both. Let's take one on one. Fun fact, because I knew that although it's not physically the same, I'm going to show you in a minute, because of the standard of the 13-pin connector, 13-pin connector, DIN 13-pin connector, that is the core, the umbilical link between the GK pickup, the divided pickup, and the brain. What's already established, and we know that the best way to make any product profitable, it's not to have many variations of it, because it's more profitable to build 1 million units of one model than having to sell 100,000 units of 10 models. That's not that profitable, because it requires way more training, way more workforce and machinery and templates and jigs and expense. Once, if you can downsize it to the minimal variations required, and that's what they did. I believe they started already with GK2. I think it was already a GK2B released, although I'm not sure that one was like 3 and the guitar counterpart, 6 channels of divided pickup, as in hexaphonic, 6 individual pickups in one single chassis. So they decided to do, okay, because of the wires already carrying 7 signals down the brain, as in the hexaphonic 6 individual pickups, plus the standard magnetic pickup of the guitar, that's your 7th signal. Those 7 signals were already going down the brain. So, and although some aspects of music, some musicians, some bass players were amenable to the what nowadays we know as extended range instruments, which in bass guitar means instead of playing the traditional 4 strings like an upright bass, some people are starting to add 1 extra string, go to 5 string. The problem is, even back then, they could not decide if they would want a higher string or a lower string. Considering the role of bass, the rhythm section side of bass, I always found more sensible, more logical to go low, because you got the rest of the band going high, not to mention singers and keyboard players and synth players. Everybody's going high. So the only way out is going the other way, going low. So your only competition is basically on a polyphonic synth, your left hand, and on a piano, your left hand. And even so, not always you're competing actually in the same octave or not actually in the same arrangement. So there's room for wiggling down there. But also at that time was a second trend, even more niche, but still significant. And by significant, I want to think that is because, my short experience as a bass player has given me this perception that bass players buy a smaller amount of gear items, but they spend more money on each gear item. And we could theorize and try to explain why all night long until the cows come back home. it's all about frequencies. It's about fighting the stereotype that nobody listens to the bass player. All those insert your preferred bass player joke in here, and with a stereotype that nobody cares what the bass player is doing until he makes a mistake. And trust me, in these few years I've been doing bass, it's kind of hard to make a mistake on bass. It's not impossible, depending on the style you're playing, but it's kind of hard. And even if you do, it's kind of true. If you make a boo-boo, the audience is not paying attention to your boo-boos. It's paying attention to the singer's boo-boos, or the lead guitar boo-boos, or the lead piano or lead synth boo-boos. Sometimes even the drummers. But the bass is like, yeah, it's there. Just do your thing. Keep doing. No worries. So there was being created another niche of bass playing, therefore, which consisted on not having to decide if you wanted your range extension lower or higher. They said, let's get both. Let's go 6-string guitars, which for Roland was like, hey, hooray, means if we just slightly modify the pickup we already have for guitars, give it the right size, the right impedance, the right signal, the right amount of signal, and the right string spacing, which is the main difference between a guitar and a bass guitar. The same control unit, because it's the same control unit on a GK3 than on a GK3B, which is the bass version, and the same cable. We're golden. We don't need to develop anything else. We only have to change slightly the actual magnetic body of the pickup. Everything is the same. It's common because it was already designed for 6 strings. So now bass players want to do 6 strings. Awesome. We have you covered. We are Roland. We look into the future. We have you covered. Come to the family. Which in fact was less, we don't really want to design a 4-string variation and having to have 2 types of cable and 2 types of control units and 2 types of pickups with 2 types of wiring with 2 types. You know what I mean. I mean, obviously I don't have any facts coming straight from the owners of Roland, but in hindsight, judging by their decisions and the marketing, the pitch, the selling pitch of their products, and the actual product and the way they design their brains around the pickups, I'd be really impressed if I'm wrong, because everything adds up. I mean, in other words, that's what I would do if I would roll in the guitar synth division of Roland. It's like, okay, let's try to cut cost at all cost and try to make it even more profitable by shrinking the development. So we have 2 variations of the pickup, variation for bass, variation for guitar. I believe at one point they released one variation of the up-to-date brain as a bass version. Can't remember which one, excuse me so much, but it was definitely not I mean, after the sevens, the GR-7 line, which had the proprietary guitars. I think one of them was released as a bass version. I said they tried once. I said, okay, this is for guitars, this is for bass players. Let's see how good they do. They didn't do too well. Obviously, the bass unit wasn't really bought too much, and it was too much cost holding both. So what they did from then on is basically to start making the units dual. Every unit could read, in a way of speaking, could read either a guitar pickup, a GK2 or 3, and a GK2B or 3B, depending on the model itself, which came with its pros and its cons, because obviously the sound design, the patch management, the patch development was heavily tilted towards the guitar application, as in higher octaves, more lead and melodic stuff that at least performs more on that, not so much basses, as in bass tone, just bass tone. Many patches would come with a sub oscillator or with a bass added on top, but they always worked better, or they made more sense applied to a guitar than a bass guitar. That's one of the things that 55 changed. They say, okay, this time we're gonna be thoughtful about both sides, and we're gonna give you in the same unit a specific patches, a specific behavior, a specific noise filtering, and this is gonna become, if you buy a 55 or even some of the later units, it's gonna become critical at some types of behavior on some type of performances. Filtering, noise cancelling, brain decisions about what's noise, what's note, what to play, what not to play, to make the experience more amenable to the player. What they did, and to me was possibly necessary, so they didn't have to invest on a probably twice as powerful CPU and double RAM memory, and I don't know what else would have been implied to keep the same paradigm they had on the previous units, which is one engine works for both guitar or bass. You just can plug in distinctively whatever you need. Although, as I said, the sounds and the patches that came from factory made way more sense on a guitar than on a bass. This one, what they changed is, yes, we're giving you both specifically tailored devices, but not at the same time. As in, you could not jump from a guitar song, unplug, plug your bass, and do the next song on bass. Because once again, what is the difference between guitar and bass? Traditionally, and I'm talking 4-string basses, is just giving a octave down effect to the guitar, to the behavior of the guitar, as in, is just one octave lower. And because at one point, and all you guitar players know exactly what I'm talking about, because of the repetitions through the fretboard of the notes, it doesn't make more sense for I'm just doing one octave lower type of behavior to go beyond 4 strings. Because even, I think, the 3rd fret... Okay, now you're going to make me think... because that's G... What, the 5th or 6th fret of the higher string on a bass, it's already a guitar note. So you're stepping into a standard guitar notes in the range of the standard guitar. So what would be the sense of making a bass guitar that is 6 strings wide? Which, if for those who don't know or are not so familiar, remember the guitars are tuned in ascending 4ths or 1/3 or major fourth, major third, and then fourth again. And because traditional bass doesn't reach the higher notes of the guitar, they don't actually reach to the string jump, which is third string to fourth string. Third string to second string on a guitar, which would be first string to zero string on a bass. Oh God, I hope I'm not confusing you. If you have any doubts about this, you're getting all muddled up, please tell me. I'm happy to explain and show. Basically, you start having duplicates. You start stepping on each other's feel of notes and textures and tones. So it was never a need or an intention or a point for what to give a bass guitar any more than four strings, like an upright bass, because upright bass also has to live with cellos, violas, violins, a lot of other instruments that go way higher than he does, so he can just stick to his specific amount of notes and registers, his octave, and that's it. No need to go beyond. But obviously humans are humans, and they're gonna stretch technology and gear and music in unforeseeable ways. So bass guitar opened a whole myriad of lead bass work, or dual guitar work, or guitar work while the guitar is not doing what he's supposed to do on the rhythm side of things. So bass can take that part for a specific moment, for some kind of aesthetic. Not to mention when we start talking about rock and rollers, when we start talking about jazz players, when we start talking about people that they have a tendency to just go to break the rules. If they're told they can't do something, they will do that thing. So bass started becoming more, and thanks to amplification, bass started becoming a more and more, not predominant, because it always has a rhythm section background type of leitmotif or of raison d'existence, but more noticeable, more discernible for the audience, because it was loud enough. Very bassy, but loud enough. Very dark, as opposite to bright, like guitars, violins, voices, cymbals, but still noticeable enough. And at one point in rock and roll history, a crucial part of the whole aesthetics and ethos of the whole genre. But apart from that, it's just a guitar that is tuned down one octave. But with the advent of synthesizers and synthesizer music, it was not only the case that the guitar, the bass guitar, the very low guitar, was finally loud enough to be able to be heard. It was even sometimes way too loud, to the point of taking over most of the song landscape. As in, songs were basically drum, bass, drums of any kind, analog, digital, synthetic or natural, bass, normally synthetic, many artists both electric and synthetic, as in synthesizer, and then higher frequency melodies out of any other instruments, being guitar, another synthesizer, vocals, violins, saxophone, you name it. But the bass phenomenon, the bass structure was starting to become the thing to look after. So it made total sense to start developing synth for bass players that wanted to apply a different texture, that wanted to apply a different sound, a different behavior of the traditional bass guitar. Because another characteristics of traditional bass guitar is usually an instrument with a soft but quick attack, as in it's not soft as in a violin taking forever to come in. No, it's instant, it's tum, but it's tum. It's never tack or tick or ksh, or it's tum. It's a soft, it's a gentle push, instant push, or at least it was, as until synthesizers came in and suddenly your tum became a pank or a tank or quank or a poing, or things way more spry, way more fast, that would allow for many other interactions that were in common on the role of the bass guitar. Because the technology wasn't ready there, although I'm aware about attempts to get guitar players, and by extension bass players, that synthesizer emergency speed of behavior through analog synthesizer technology, obviously coming to the shortcomings and the brick walls that technology implies, and had to work around as early as in 1977, I believe, possibly earlier, as in prototypes, because my first perception of let's make a guitar synthesized product to sell that I have recollection, I think it was the ARP AXA. I'm trying to remember, because they tried to pitch and release two products at the same time, a polyphonic product and a monophonic product. As in polyphonic, that you could actually, even from a bass, you could play more than one synthesizable voice at a time, as much as 6, I believe, because it was designed for guitar. And then just monophonic, kinda, still using a hexaphonic pickup, which they use for a secondary, or how to put it, one of those mirage products. We say we're giving you a synthesizer, but it's not actual synthesizer technology. It's in fact just plain audio processing technology, which if you've been following this show, you've come many times to the realization that it's kind of, they go hand in hand. Remember COSM and remember DSP processing, to make you believe you're playing a synthesizer when you're actually just changing on a very complex way, on a very process intensive, as in computer processing intensive manner, but you're just changing, you're equalizing, you're modifying the signal of your guitar to make it resemble a synthesizer. Back in the day, in those first iterations by ARP and probably other companies that I'm not aware of, I'm sorry, they came with this, what they call the clean fuzz box, or the multi-fuzz, or the, how they call it? I think they had a third name depending on who was trying to advertise it, which is basically, since you already have 6 individual signals coming from the guitar, instead of applying one fuzz box to all the harmonics and all the notes of a chord from a guitar, you apply a fuzz circuit to each and every one of the strings one by one. So no harmonics from the 5th string would be involved on the distortion of the fuzz processing of the 6th string, so on and so forth. And also, for as another side effect, the option to turn them off individually. You could have 3 strings with fuzz, 3 strings without. Totally unheard of. I mean, even if it wasn't actual synthesizer technology, that was, to my understanding, a big breakthrough in the 70s decade. Because yes, let's remember that fuzz boxes were barely born in the 60s, and by accident, and not really spread or accessible to everybody, or even accepted as a viable or an option when it came the time of music production, because that was noise. It sounded broken. Why would you want that on music that meant to be mellow and relax you and make your soul grow and your spirit grow? Why would you want to be strident and hostile on your sonic mayhem? Only those beatniks and yeah-yeahs and yeah, sorry, that's what we call the British invasion in Spain. Yeah, yes, because all the songs had the yeah, yeah, yeah. Started with the Beatles. So, but it was another breakthrough technological-wise. You had a totally new flavor of distortion, of fuzz, of fuzziness, of long sustains, and even notes, as in very little dynamics, which for some people in the 70s was something that it was cool to experiment with, because you never had it before. Before that, every single instrument had a very, some bigger than others, but a quite big range of dynamics. Hence, and the will to make performances louder, no more noticeable, but also even and more repeatable. All the rock and rollers started trying to find use fuzz boxes, distortion boxes, amplifier gain, distortion in the amplifier, taken with all, well, many of us heard the stories about the Kinks cutting little slits in the paper cone of the amplifier, so when it vibrates it will sound broken, which is what legend keeps claiming that happened in You Really Got Me from the Kinks. Some other people disagree, so I don't know the real truth, so I'm not gonna take any sides. The same way that some people claim that Ike Turner from Ike and Tina, well, at the time not yet Ike and Tina Turner, but the same Ike Turner invented distortion guitar one day that they had to get to a gig and the amplifier fell off the car, damaging itself bad enough to sound broken, but not bad enough to stop working. So they pull it off, they do the gig, they turn it off, sounded like shit, and they have to perform to get the money. So they just perform with that. But they started digging it. Once you get used to it, once you go the first hurl of, oh my god, that's broken, it's not meant to sound like that. But wait, it has a vibe, it has a tone, it has something new. And new is good. At least new was good. 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, new was good. Not so sure about in the 90s and their force, but here I am. I'm combing gray hairs. But going back to bass, that revolution of new sounds, those first attempts of trying to play bass synthesizers from the bass, as I said, is with guitar and the fact that you're manipulating the actual thing that generates the vibration that either acoustically down a microphone or electrically through an amplifier, through a speaker, creates the tone and the music. You always have, when you try to rationalize it and make a machine deal with that amount of harmonic, rhythmic, and noise information, makes the machine really want to shoot itself on the side of the head, because it's too complex, it's too weird, it's too chaotic, which is what we love about guitar. Or don't we? Yes, we do. But bass was always also given a second problem on top of all those, is the fact that the frequencies that bass is handling, even more if it's on a backbone, background, rhythm section, dark type of tone tessiture, is that the frequencies it's managing are very hard for a 60s, 70s, 80s machine to tell if that's a musical note or is just rumble or resonance from the ambience in the concert room. Therefore, bass players had to wait a little longer for technology to catch up, to be able to think harder and think faster and think better, for them to start saying, okay, I can work with this. I can try to put this. Yes, I will adapt. I will have to adapt to it because it's not playing like a bass guitar, not even playing like an upright bass, but I can adapt to it. I see a point. It's not unplayable. And I'm not really sure when that caught up. I'm going to say half 80s, or at least second quarter of the 80s, if any. If not later. I'm not too sure about dates, because once again, one thing is when the big brand, international brand, the big kahuna, manages to come with a product that is ready for the market, and a completely different story is when is that product actually making it to the studios and the stages of the people that might be interested on using it. And then the whole hurdle of trying to match those two areas, the area of the people who want to sell the product, who has a very small communication radius. Once again, we're talking 70s, 80s, 90s. And the small, diminutive amount of people that would be amenable to try to change their playing technique in order to accommodate those new sounds that those technologies were promising. It's always or at least it was, a very slow burning process. First, you had to have the item. It had to be good enough for the first entrepreneurs to adopt it, and then start trickling on and making it profitable. So you don't just abandon the idea, abandon the product, abandon the line, and don't support it anymore because you think nobody wants it. Sometimes it's because nobody wants it. Sometimes it's because the people who want them can't afford them. Sometimes it's because they just need a little more time to save the money to be able to afford it and buy it. So it's a slow burning. Once again, 55 finally comes around, once again 2015-ish, and says, finally a unit that guitar players and bass players can use. The same unit, not different units with different prices. And if you want to do, who knows, it might be this insane. You want to do both, then you need to buy everything double. 2 pickups, 2 guitars to hold those pickups. Technically, you should have those already. And 2 units, 2 brains to be able to be triggered by the pickups. No, GR-55 say, no. It's the same brain, it's the same unit. You still obviously need one guitar, 1 bass guitar, and you're gonna need 2 pickups. A guitar pickup, because mostly, not really technologically, it's mostly about the physicality of guitar. Thinner strings, way close together, compared to thicker strings, almost like a finger thick, farther apart, is what actually makes the necessity of having a specific bass pickup. Let's try to show you, for instance. So I bought specifically this bass guitar. Nothing fancy. Once again, I'm not a rich man. Never was. I'm not, and never will be. At least not in this lifetime. But I knew I wanted something that it would feel nice on my hand. I would rather have it also feeling nice on my neck. This is not the case. I'm going to show you in a second. But because I've never had played, in fact, this is the first ever bass guitar I ever bought with my own money. And because I already had the pickup, the 55 and the pickup for the guitar, said, oh, what about the bass pickup? Oh, the bass pickup is also 6 strings wide. So how bad could it be if I learned to play a 6 string? Every other bass guitar should be just easier because you start removing strings. So if you can play 6, you definitely can play 5. I mean, it's a little harder if you learn to play 4 and then you try to play 5. Everything gets a little convoluted, everything is in the wrong place, and everything is different. When you start removing, it's the same, it's just I don't do this. That I used to do, I can't do it anymore because there's nothing there. Good. And as I said, I put a love to be easy on my back, but this baby, let me take the strap away. This little baby here is what some civilizations would consider a torture tool. I haven't weighted it, but I'm pretty sure it's around 6 kilos, which doesn't sound this much. It doesn't sound too much, not even for a bass, until you have to wear this on your back for at least 2 hours standing, or in chunks of hour, 20 minutes in a row, standing with it, trying to move, try to have a little swing to accompany the vibe of the song, or just trying to interact with the rest of the band and all the audience. This is an anchor. It's like wearing a lead anvil on your neck. It's really, really heavy. And because it's heavy, it came with another drawback. No, I don't think drawback is the right word. Another shortcoming that I learned way later. Apparently, heavy guitars tend to be darker than lighter guitars. I know this is an extremely simplistic generalization, but people who know their businesses claim so I'm just repeat what they say. What I did learn with this guitar is if I, on top of it being dark, as in the extra mass of the body gives it a darker tone, on top of that, the not so nice or not so expensive pickups that comes in such an inexpensive build are also dark by nature. And by that I mean the standard. Okay, I'm trying. Remember all the problems with the guitars and hitting stuff? Think about something that is almost twice as long. Yeah, it's not fun. So these, what we call soap bar pickups, right there. Soap bar is a standard size, even for 6 strings. There are standard sizes, millimeters up or down, give or take, but they're kind of standard. But these ones are manufactured by the guitar manufacturers, so they're not anything fancy. They're also dark. And on top of that, there's some kind of given knowledge or given wisdom that the GR synth community likes to spread, because there is some truth in it, which is that the guitar people are going to understand exactly what I'm talking about. synth people, just bear with me. I'm going to try to explain as quick as I can. The type of strings on guitars, there's basically two types of ways to build the actual string. Not only about which materials you use to build it, but also the technique and the process you use to build it. All that's noticeable for the player, because that's another big conversation. Can anybody actually hear what the player hears? I would say 90% of the time, no. Not only because the nuances that the player hears come out of excruciatingly detailed observation through hours and hours of practice on the same instrument with the same gear. So you become savant by the force because of just the force of repetition. Not only that, those nuances are really hard to hear for anybody that is not spending that much time with that particular item. It's also because most of the people in the other side of the stage, where the audience is, couldn't care less about those 1%, not 0.5% nuance differences in string alloys, string constructions, and string coatings, etc., etc. Bass strings, although they are also crucial, and some of the differences are really noticeable by anybody on a guitar, which is using 3 strings that are basically, give or take, the width of a hair, human or animal, and 3 strings that are what you would call wire, basically, building wire. As in, I'm talking about thereabouts the type of the width, the section, the circular section. If you would cut a string and then look at the section, it's basically wire. It's that thin. It's not much than that. On bass guitar, everything goes magnified. You wouldn't believe so, because once again, you're just drop tuning your pitch shift in the guitar 1 octave down. But sadly, that when physics applies to that, and physics that humans need to handle, it gets trickier. So, okay, let's try to put this in perspective. I don't know how to zoom on me. So, obviously, this is a right-handed bass, means it's gonna drop this way. Okay, meaning that here are the thicker strings, the ones that will end up near my head or my face. Yeah, exactly. Thicker strings. And these are the thinner strings. The thicker the string, the lower the pitch. Okay? Once again, remember when we talk about guitars, if the scale remains the same, as in the length of the string remains the same, and you change the pitch down, as in make the note lower, you need to increase the section of the string. And if you want to increase the pitch of the note higher, treblier, you need to reduce the section. So the same energy moves faster the material. It's like a balance. If you have nothing in the balance doesn't move. If you have, well, sorry. Yeah, the balance example is not a good one, because the heavier on the balance, the faster it moves. So no, that's not the one. It would be more like inertia or skating. The smaller the mass, the smaller the momentum or the inertia of the movement. Same thing. It's faster, but it dies sooner, kind of. when it comes to physics of strings, all those things don't really apply that way. But once again, what we care is that the thinner string, this, because we count from treble to bass, every guitar counts from treble to bass, so from bottom, close to the floor, to roof, to top, close to the head. I'm talking string-wise. So this is your 1 string, this is your 6 string, not the other way around. Good. So the first string on a 6-string bass typically is roughly the 5th string on a guitar gauge-wise. They're more or less the same section. Therefore, the 2nd string on a 6-string bass is more or less your 6th string on a guitar, width-wise. The length of the string is, we're moving from 25¼ to 34 inches. What's that? 5, it's like 9-10 inches difference. Okay, so we increase the length of all the strings by roughly 10 inches. Let's call it 9, I don't know. Just try not to create too many decimals or fractions, right? But by the time you get to the 6th string, this is the size, you would call this a rod, a cooking tool, a spear. You could do a spear this section, an arrow, a very thin arrow. This is although you can go thicker if you want a specific behavior, of you're foreseeing the chance of tuning the guitar even lower. So if you want the same behavior, the same reaction, the same speed of playing, but on a lower note, you also need to increase the width, therefore increasing the tension, so it would react and behave like if it would be at the same speed that if it was pitched, tuned to standard pitch. Conventionally and typically the normal, the expected tuning on a bass guitar, starting with a 4-string bass, would be like on a guitar, and careful because this is gonna throw you, would be E, A, D, and G. So these 4 strings here in the middle are exactly the same notes that you would find on a 4-string bass. Okay, so this is your 4-string bass. Remember what I said about extending the range of the bass? Good. As I said, by logic, or through logic, the first extension of the bass that I think everybody would want is to go lower. That's why this is, in this case, the 6th string, although the nomenclature for bass is not really 6th string, is low B, because this string is tuned down at descending 5th from E to B, to lower B, right? So this would be your B. And once you have those 5 strings here, okay, you got 3 here, 2 here, that's your 5-string bass. So these 5 strings is what you will find typically on a 5-string bass, with the only exception that some people don't want the extension of going low. They want the extension of going higher. So their 5-string bass would be this 5, starting with the regular bass, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then what is called, because the standard is the fourth, so anything beyond the fourth cannot be given a number. This is called high C, because like every other string, is tuned an ascending fourth from G to C. Okay? So some people have this as a 5 string, and some people have this as a 5 string. In my head, the way to sort that out is, for God's sake, buy a bloody 6 string. That way you have first string, second string, third string, fourth string, low B, and high C. 6 string, which is basically, as I said, a 4 string surrounded by 2 extension strings, one higher, one lower. That's the way they do on bass. But as I said, although you can have thicker gauges, because that depends on your strength, the action you're comfortable playing with. By as we explained with guitar, action is the distance between the bottom of the string, is kind of the gap. This gap I'm opening here, the distance, my finger is what we call the action. Sorry, if I point the finger on top of the fret, that is the action. The distance between the bottom of the string and the top of the fret on a specific point of the neck, usually the 12th fret, which is kind of the halfway the string. This double dot here, there, that's the 12th fret, and this bar here, this point I'm touching right now, is exactly half the distance between the bridge and the headstock and the nut, is that finger there in the middle. Cool. 55. How does 55 go on go all about this one, about this situation, these 4 strings and low Bs and high Cs and 6 strings, when most, I don't know, 75-80% of every bass player in the world only uses 4 string. As I said, they already had the 6 string technology, so they only had to do is to adapt it to the size, the sheer size of a bass guitar with string section gauges, thicknesses of a bass guitar instead of a guitar. So they came up about, let's see if I can show it without breaking anything. Oh, I just noticed this. Let's see if this helps. There. Too much. Sorry. Let's tweak, 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 tweak. Little better, right? Give me cold, warmer. That's more even with the other one. Okay, so let's get the strap out of the way. Although it's upside down, once again, sides here, the neck mates going side to side, really complex and awkward. So that would be, so that would be the standard position and size of the guitar one, right? We can see that the pickup is way bigger than the control unit. It has a little slit on the middle to signify that would be the middle of a 6-string bass, which basically it's between strings 2 and 3. Remember? For those are the ones with numbers, those are the ones with letters, okay? But the magnetic body, which would be this here, is the only thing that's different. It's bigger, the pole pieces are farther apart than they would be on the guitar version. It's also obviously the people from Roland / Boss had to make the research and take measurements about the most common or more used or most popular type of bass guitar setups, as in what type of bridges are common, how high would the bridge be, how far away from the pickup it would be, to know what are the limit measurements, the bottom lines that they cannot go beyond if they want to have a successful product. And one of the differences, for instance, is that the bass guitar out of the box comes with attachments and helping shims to keep the pickup fairly flat and close to the body, as in very low profile. When the guitar is kind of midway, it also gives you low profile shims and sticky pads, at the same time giving you the option to make the whole pickup float if you have a type of Gibson type bridge or two-pneumatic bridge, which is basically floating above the body. It's not really touching, physically connected to the boot of the body. Apart from that, other difference that to me it's kind of unfair, because I have both, is that the bass pickup comes with these little things, these little plastic retainers or hooks or fixing, they're glue-ons. You don't have to modify the wood, they're just stickers to keep the cable tidy and controlled and pretty, out of the way of the playing. I think it's unfair because the guitar does not come with those. The guitar, basically, you have to leave the cable. You can recoil it inside the control unit. You can recoil the excess inside the control unit. But the link between this and the pickup is basically floating wire, floating cable. And it's a 13-strand cable. So that's one of the things that gave a little bit of a bad rep to the JK technology and the Roland technology. Because I don't think it was until GK3 and the GR units that got released at the same time hit the market, you only could attach the guitar pickup with the cable in the same spot that I'm showing here, which is going around the bridge on the higher part. Problem is, on guitar, on rocking guitar, metal guitar, fast playing guitar, okay, that's exactly where your hand lives, which means your hand is gonna be rubbing the point of contact of the wire getting into the chassis, getting into the chassis of the pickup. Meaning that sweat is gonna go in there, rust is gonna happen there, the screws are gonna rust off and wear off, the coating on the pickup and all the shielding of the cable is gonna frail, shatter, rub off. That was a very bad reputation that those units had. It's not until, I believe, until GK3 and the brains related to GK3, they start giving you the option to have the cable going up around or down underneath, away from your hand. Other big difference that the bass guitar pickup has, because of the sheer size and because it's there and there's actually plenty of room, I'm trying to get the best light here, is that on the bass pickup, the cable is attached to the pickup on the side in the middle of the pickup. When the guitar version, because it's so tiny, the cable, they decided to attach it in one of the ends. So the cable enters the pickup right where your hand is going to be rubbing. Hence that they have that many problems and that bad rep about the pickups not being reliable, about the pickups having intermittent fails, because of if somebody is using it day in and day out professionally, and they're not built to the higher spec, they're not built like a tank, they're built to a price. So that's another reason that didn't play in favor of the technology to be developed and or wanted by the musicians. But back to the bass. Apart from that, control unit is the same. 3-position selector is the same. Rotary controller is the same. As we explained on the guitar episodes, could be assigned to do a big bunch of things, not everything, but a big bunch of things, either at unit-wide level or patch a specific level. You get to choose, at least on 55. Many previous GR units wouldn't be that forgiving, that allowing, that flexible, right? I'm losing my thereabouts. So this is still your 13-pin connection. This is the one. Okay. No. Oh my God. That. That is your 13-pin connection, your big thick cable. And as on the guitar, we have a detachable, very important, both. Okay, let's try to find the camera. Yeah. Both 1/4-inch size, unlike GK2 and GK2B, which would have a 1/8-inch on the control unit and a 1/4-inch on the guitar end. And you would say, but wait, that was unplugged. Why would you have this dangling over? Because this, like many interesting bass guitars, not every interesting bass guitars, but many interesting bass guitars, this is an active circuitry. Okay, right there. See the puppy? That's the battery. Means that the whole electronics is active, and as soon as you plug a 1/4-inch on the jack connection, it's gonna start very, very, very slowly. As I said, I had one of these batteries last a year, a very good 12, 13 months, right, of frequent use, not intense use, but frequent use. But if I forget to unplug it every night, after 12 uninterrupted hours of being plugged, the battery is either very low or totally dead. Okay? By, as I said, 2-3 hours practice, 1 hour practice, 2-3 hour gigs, months, really months. But you need to still be aware to try to extend your battery life by doing so. I'm putting it in here because we're gonna play it. So, yeah, as I said, oops, once again, ups and down. Rotary controller, configurable, mostly volume. That's the first use, the factory, the setup that comes, being the volume of the whole unit or the volume of the synth. And 2 control switches right here. Switches, I think this is 2, this is switch 1, the square button type stuff. Also configurable. I had them as bank up and bank down, because each bank gives me 3 patches, the option to choose by foot 3 patches. Okay, but apart from having try to show this is gonna be this is gonna be very tricky. So the hardware to hold the pickup it's a little more substantial, not because every bass guitar is thicker or fatter than a standard guitar, not really, even less if you have a Les Paul, for instance. It's mostly because, unlike a guitar, to try to make the already very long instrument a little shorter, you can notice that the distance between the bottom of the body and the pick and the bridge is really minute. It's a couple of inches, some inches, to the point that in many designs of basses, the control unit always is going to clash either with the controls or with the bridge. Means that they have to build, once again, a riser, right? A clip and a riser, so you can have the control unit hovering, not need to be touching, but hovering over your bridge so it doesn't block your string change. Not that typical bass players change strings as often as they should, because that's a very long conversation. And sadly, most of those conversations involve tone, the wonderful bass tone, the mojo of being playing the right note on the right moment to make the whole song be awesomer, right? I subscribe it or not, depending on the day and how much do I want to have a laugh. But yeah, bass players, one string change a year. I've heard of some of them not changing them until they break. And once again, we're talking about wires that you would need snips to be able to cut. Otherwise, they wouldn't. So think about breaking one of these big puppies. And then also heard professional bass players, studio hired guns that, if not per job, they would change strings per week. As soon as they're not in total, flawless, pristine tone brightness, because like guitar, bass guitar strings lose their brightness over the lifespan. But also they will become more uneven on the tuning, as in the frets will start to jump a little bit out of tune, as in the whole guitar is in tune, all the open strings would be in tune, but then your frets would drift slightly, right? Because technically the metal is under tension and under vibration, so that metal is meant to stretch minute amount, but possibly unevenly, as in, let's do round numbers. Let's say that it's going to stretch 1 mil here, but 2 mils here. That means that one of these strings, because mass ratio tension, is going to vibrate faster than it should, and the other one is going to vibrate slower than it should. We're talking weak splitting numbers here. We're talking about hertz, of quarters, of halves of a hertz. Problem is, the lower you go, the less hertz cycles per second you have to play around, to the point that the lowest note on a piano ever, I think, is E0, which is 22 hertz. That string technically moves 22 times per second. So a 1 hertz variation going to 23 makes everybody hear that note very heavily sharp. And if it goes to 24, we're talking about the next note, basically. So tuning, precision tuning, stability, evenness of the tuning becomes more critical the lower you tune your instrument. Because if you have 7,000 hertz, 7K, you can ditch 10 or 20 here and there, nobody will really bat an eyelid. But if you only have 50, you cannot drift 5, if you understand what I mean. So, going back to 55, yes, you can use it for guitar and you can use it for bass. And as I said, not at the same time. To the point that, well, you know, I'm not an IT guy. I don't know everything about computers. I got a shallow understanding of the mechanics of digital and computer electronics and behavior and why it should, a little bit how it performs, but don't really understand what does what and how does the technology evolve. So in layman terms, the way that GR goes about giving you the option either or is by means of what you would call a double boot computer. Meaning that if you want to jump from one to the other, you need to move to a menu, which is not one click. Trust me, it's not one click. Move to a menu and tell the system, hey, I want to jump modes. They're called modes, guitar mode, bass mode. I want to jump modes. And the system goes and tells you, great. Now I know you want to jump, reboot the unit. Basically, shut down and turn it back on again. Like the IT crowd. How did you turn it on and off again? Sorry, off and on again. Meaning that it's not fast-paced gig worthy. No. The going to the menu and shutting down is around 20 to 30 seconds. The rebooting is another 25 to 35 seconds. So a good minute of shit is gonna work, shit is gonna work, is gonna go around. And depending on the global setup of your unit, it will not boot on the patch you need for the next song. It will boot either on the last patch used or in the patch 1.1. But the funky thing is, it's usually the patch 1.1 on the factory side of the patch memory, not on the user side. I'm not sure, could be wrong. If I'm wrong, please come and tell me. Write it down on the comments. I don't think you can set up the unit to boot on the user side of the memory. It always boots in the factory side. So you need to tell the unit that you're going to jump, you're going to change instruments, shut it down. That's your opportunity to unplug your cable, bring your other guitar. If you go from bass to guitar, get the guitar. From guitar to bass, get the bass. Hang it, plug it, boot the unit, wait for the unit to fully boot and be ready to rumble, and then make it jump to the patch you need to go to. Luckily, the workaround I can think of is the fact that there's a program change mappable or editable roadmap that it would allow you to assign the standard 127 values of program change from any program changing device, pedal board, stomp box, dial wheel on a synthesizer, on a keyboard, program change on a DAW, to assign exactly the patch that you want to use every time that program change message is received. Explain for the few of you that are not following. Basically, I could have and I usually do, an external program change command remote controller that would say, okay, you're rebooted, you're ready to go, good. Program change, Let's make it simple, 1. But that doesn't mean it's gonna go to bank 1 patch, Okay, let me remind you, the patch memory on 55 is divided in 4 blocks that you could call styles, because one is called lead, one is called rhythm, and one is called other. And the 4 block is user, right? Lead, rhythm, and other have combined the same capacity as user has. So basically, when it comes to number of available patches, you have the user amount times 2, but the second time is divided in 3 blocks, kind of specific patches, non-editable. Those are non-editable, they're there for life. Either you like them or not. If you want to tweak any of those, you need to tweak it and save it on the user side of the memory, right? Good. So when you say program change 1, it's not going to go to lead, bank 1, patch 1. Because I wrote in that mappable correspondency receive program number destination patch number, when I send program change 1, it might go straight to user, bank 20, patch 2. That's the only workaround I can think of, because no matter what, you're going to be booted in block lead, bank 1, patch 1, or if you last used the unit, and I'm not sure if it keeps that memory when you jump modes. That's one thing. If I checked, it was so long ago, I don't remember the result of that check-in. If you understand what I mean, well, while you stay in guitar mode and you configure the unit to open the last use patch, if the last use patch was rhythm 10.2, block rhythm, bank 10, patch 2, when you turn on the unit again, not boot it, turn on the unit again, it will come back on that patch. I don't know if that works. Obviously, it doesn't work when you change to base mode, because A, it does the reboot, and B, the allocated memory, patch memory for the base mode, I don't know why, is smaller. I don't know why. Nobody told me. Roland never came and explained me why. What I deduce, reading between the lines, is bass players don't really use many different sounds. In many cases, because the band, the music they're playing, they don't allow it. In my personal experience, the band members would get restless about it. If you try to, I don't know, God forbid, to apply a extreme chorus or flanger to a specific song on the bass side of the song, they would look at you like you're insane and need to be sent to a sanitarium. No, that's not evicted. What's the... Oh, I forgot in the English word. Yeah, you need to be given a straitjacket. Why? That's exactly why they're using the original studio recording. The fact that the bass player that hired just for the tour chose or got told not to use it live doesn't mean that it's wrong if I can actually use it live. Sorry, it's a pet peeve of me. It's one of those things that rub me wrong. Because being a former guitar player, I'm all about different sounds per song. You tweak EQ, you tweak distortion, you tweak bass response, you tweak attack, you tweak reverb. Oh, for God's sake, you wouldn't believe the amount of hard times I've had because I put rhythm to the bass guitar. Sorry, I put, reverb. Bass guitar doesn't use reverb. Yeah, it does use reverb when we are in a room so big that, or so dead, that my notes instead of tun are tup, 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 tup. I'm not a bass drum. I'm meant to have some volume, some length. And if the room is eating alive all my resonance, I need to use something to grow it like they do in the studio. Or what do you think a live room is? It's a set reverb. A room reverb. That's what a live room means. It's a room that already has a very nice sounding, very manageable, out of the way reverb. And there you play your instruments, including the bass guitar, even if it's an electric bass guitar. Uses an amplifier in a room, in some cases, with a distance microphone, recording the room. Reverb. Really, you wouldn't believe. Oh yes, I need to, let me a second, I need to tweak the reverb on the bass. You're putting reverb on the bass? What are you talking about? I'm talking about modern acoustics. That's what I'm talking about. Sorry. Rant over. So, you can work around by remapping and having an external device telling GR-55 expressly where do you want to go after you boot it, but you still need to go to the process to tell the unit, get out, get in, go back to the patch. And that's not even if, and thank God we have the option, both modes, by the way, I'm not actually excluding any of them, both modes come with guitar profiles, you could call it, as in, each guitar has a different body, it's a different tone, sometimes it's a different scale length, sometimes it's single coils against humbuckers, hotter output, weaker output, active preamps, non-active preamps, 4-string, 5-string. The space where you can actually attach the pickup is different, so the measurements that you need to take to configure the pickup inside the system are different. So all that information that is guitar sensitive, and by guitar I mean either guitar or bass guitar, you can save in a profile. As in, this is my 6-string Shine bass guitar. Then I get a profile with all the specifications, all the little tweakings, all the string heights, bridge lengths, all the details that the unit needs to perform at its optimal level. If by any reasons I can't use that guitar that night or that song or whatever, I could have a backup guitar with a backup pickup set up physically, as in attached for whatever reason differently. Or I could have a 4-string as a backup. So everything, what would be different on a 4-string? On a 4-string, you don't want the pickups for the, once again, I don't want to knock anything. You don't want your low B and your high C pickups to be active sending information. You want to shut those two individual pickups in the hexaphonic, you want to shut them off as a default, because you're not going to use it, because that guitar is not 5 or 6 strings, it's 1 string less. So why would you increase the already sensitive problem of cross-talk in between the pickups, which decreases the performance of the unit because it's not sure the signal he's getting is the one he should play, or is just rumble from the pickup that is close to it. All right, that's another of the drawbacks of the 55 at least, and most of the GR units. Once again, because the GK3 pickups and probably also the GK2 pickups were built to a price, not because they were never built to be the best they could be. They were built to be the most profitable they could be. We all know what that means. Cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to share our beloved, if I can't do this first. Yes. Now I can do this, and I can try to give you a share. Share screen. Yeah, share. I want to share entire screen. This one. Share. And bring it in. Okay. Just because without a secondary camera or a bigger shot or in a bigger room with better lighting, that's the only way I can show you the kind of pain in the bum that this becomes. So, because now it's all gone very small. Let me go full, since nobody's making any comments. Ooh, what's this? Sorry, what did I do? Ooh. Okay, so yeah, let's try to go full screen. As I said, I haven't seen any messages, nobody's making any questions, so I'll just do my stuff. And I'm gonna show you, once again, infinite appreciation and thanks. And every time he releases a new updated version of this software, I try to send some money, a little money his way. Let's see if I can show it again. I think it's in about here. One too often. Okay, this person here, I'm not allowed to divulge his civil name, so this is what you get. Oh, sorry, it's here. Yeah, Mr. Colin Wilcox, Guntown, at Guntown Baseman. Funny enough, I would love to have a base conversation with this person if he ever agrees to. Yahoo.com. And this is available on SoundForge. I'm not sure it's open source, but the whole project and all the updates and all the log files are there for you to download for free. But please give the man a little appreciation in the means of a tip or whatever you feel this awesome, really awesome piece of software is worth. If you have a GR-55, he does also very similar editors for other Boss and Roland units, so it's still a source to be appreciated. So, as you can see on the, is this gonna work? Yeah, it's connected. It's meant to be synchronized, so the software and the unit are on the same page, literally. Although, no, it's not. Okay, let me reset that. Give another handshake. Now both units are talking. Now it's up to date. You see, it has changed the patch number, patch name, and still reminds you of the mode you're in. In this case, the last show we did was about building a patch from scratch on the guitar, so it's still working on guitar mode. This modeling, I don't know exactly what is making a reference to, because my understanding is that the modeling is the custom block. So I don't really know what is this about. But well, what I want to show you is that to change this, let's see, can I do it here? No. Is it in file? So export load. No, it's not on file. It's not on settings. It's here. Sorry, I'm kind of blind. In mode, see what Mr. Wilcox put on a tab on a menu as change. Oh, sorry, no, this is to change the patch. Huh. Weird. Oh, well, huh. I thought this was to change the mode. Huh. I haven't read the manual in like 3 updates. So it's weird because what it seems to be here is that it's giving you the chance, somehow he found a way to code in this editor the settings, and I'm trying to choose my words very carefully, the settings you saved in whatever mode you are as a patch, in block data, FX data, assigns data, what it's on, what it's off, and all the tweakings, it gives you the option to translate it or move it to the other mode's patch memory. Once again, I'm reading between the lines. I'm just taking this out of my ass, because that's what I understand by that. When it used to be that if you wanted to do anything in the other mode and you had the option in one of the steps, I believe, you could swap to the other mode. So let me wiggle around to see if he changed that somewhere. Okay, that's gonna be the patch name, console. To change the position of the patch, you usually do in the list on the right, sorry, on the left, dyslexic here. But this one, interesting, and in a way convenient. Yeah, I'm having to change the screen because I'm trying to do a lot with very cheap gear. Yeah, let me see if he moved it somewhere else. But seems like no, he's just did it change it to settings? I don't think it's in preferences. We will have a show about all these extra things. No, I don't think that's the case. No. Okay, cancel. It's definitely not in tools, and it shouldn't be on files. No patch, save as, export, load box, save. Okay. Either he changed it or I totally forgot that it's not available. Which makes very little sense. Because here in system, talking about difference between guitar mode, you got a guitar mode GK setup, and this GK set name is kind of the profiles I told you about. I think it gives you 10 profiles per mode, so you would have 10 guitar profiles and 10 bass profiles, I think. And then you will have the bass, which is grayed out because we're not in bass mode. Yeah, it does this a lot, and sometimes it's not fun. Cool. So that means that I'm gonna have to do it manually. As in, I'm gonna have to duck out of camera, go down the floor on the unit, and do the whole process without being able to show it. I'm gonna try to speak it out loud, but I'm not gonna. I don't have a camera that can show you what's going on, and I'm not sure how is it gonna reflect on the editor. Let's do it anyway. Yeah, we still have 15 minutes, so let's at least try to make a couple of sounds. So, am I gonna have enough cable? That's the first question. Apparently I do. So, excuse me, 3 minutes. As I said, I'm gonna go down to the unit. I'm gonna go to the menu, tell it, hey, I wanna jump to bass mode. It's gonna say, okay, shut down the unit. I'm gonna shut down the unit. I'm gonna turn on the unit again, and then it's gonna, technically the editor should show everything back again, with the difference that then it's gonna be on bass mode, where it says mode guitar. Sorry, it's gonna say bass mode this time, and the amount of the sheer number of options are gonna shrink. Okay, wish me luck. I'll be back in very little time. So I am back, and just right now it finished rebooting the bass mode, which I can see the editor has not caught up with it. So let's force it to catch up. So let's disconnect the communication and send the handshake again. Well, I can already see the patches updating on the side. And here we go. So now we have the mode changed to bass. The same. Let me show again, in case you don't know, if you care. And because this to me is one of the biggest drawbacks of this duality mode. So the way I have this editor configures that when the unit is gonna go through all the patches and read the names from all the patches anyway, I think you can configure to start with the patch list open or closed. As in close, basically, close, you only would see this. Remember those 4 blocks I told you about? Funny enough, this editor kind of puts them or shows them in the wrong order, because according to this, you would think that PC1, PC0, PC1 would be block user bank 1, patch 1. No, it's not. In fact, the user allocated memory is always coming on the 2nd or 3rd bank, depending on the mode, or 4th bank, depending on the mode, and it's right after the last patch from the block other. This block down here, okay? So I don't know why Mr. Wilcox decided to set it like that. It's slightly confusing. I can think of a reason, which is basically the actual work you're going to do on patches is going to be on the user patches, because the other ones can't be edited. So although many of us start with a factory patch and then change things about it, the heavy editors, me included and many others, I assume also Mr. Wilcox, we just go for an init patch and start from scratch with what we want, so we don't have to work around or guess or read or dig into the sub-menus to learn what was in the patch in the first place. And why is it sounding weird or not sounding sometimes? So if it can be configured, you might want to have your banks open, spread, and you can see that this user bank goes from, U means user is the block, then 01 would be the bank, and after the double dot, the 1 would be the patch. Hence the line every 3 patches. Each bank in 55 only holds 3 patches, right? So you have on the user allocated memory all the way down to it didn't fill that much last time. Okay, let me remove myself, or at least move me somewhere else. Can I move me somewhere else? Not that easy. Cool. Let me just remove myself. No, okay, well, no, I don't like that. Problem is, if I remove myself, that's the way I remove myself. Good. If I take myself in StreamYard out of the screen, means that I'm not. The system understands I'm not transmitting anymore and shuts everything, video and voice and sound. Not that we're making any sound, but still. So we got user all the way to 99 banks, each one of them with 3 patches, which is, wow, a lot. 3 times. Oh, geez, my maths are really, really bad. 18, yeah. 27. And 27. It's like 300 patches. A little more than 300 patches. And then, which if memory serves me, they're basically repeats of the ones that come in the factory on the factory blocks. Okay. So 99 times 3. Okay, then lead, it's only 12 times 3. Okay, that's all you have. There's no more. Once again, not really a biggie because you can't change them forever. You can change them at the moment instantly. You can tweak the controls on real time, but the minute you change patch, it's gone. You can't save it in this location. You need to save it to one of the 99 times 3 user locations. Right, 12 times 3, that's 6, that's 36. Yeah, that's 36 patches for the lead block. I believe the other 2 blocks are the same. Yep, although it's not showing me all of them. Don't know why. So I'm gonna go on a limb and think that rhythm is again another 36 patches, which makes 72 patches. Did I went to the wrong screen? Yes, I did. So rhythm, and then other, again 12 times 3. Why is this moved? Silly sausage. Another 36. So we got 3 times 36. That's 8. That's 108 patches, which is less than half of the 300 you got in the user allocation, which is good. Means you could basically, if so desire, get all the factory ones, tweak them to your liking or according to your guitar, and save them again, just changed, right? So let's get to business. So now I want me back. I want me back. Da, 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 da. I want you back. No, 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 no. I want you back. I know you don't want me back, but I want me back. So let's make some noise. So obviously, as we said, you had to change. You went down to the unit, ask it to change, shut it down, reboot it. In the meantime, you go and hang your bass guitar on your neck, get the guitar cable, the 13 pin, this little bad boy here, okay? Fragile and flawed as it is. You can wrap it around your strap if you so choose. I'm one of those who thinks it's a good idea. Luckily, GR-55 takes very well hot plugin, so it should be working. So let me go back. Once again, no questions, no comments. I'm gonna stop looking at the comments of the chat. So let's start with double string bass. So block lead, bank 1, patch 1. And it's not updating. Why? Okay, let me try again the handshake. This is really uncommon. Come on. Huh. Okay. That's bizarre. The unit shut down. Well, that isn't good. Huh. See what I tell you? Come from the information, stay for the train wreck. Let me see if I can quickly troubleshoot this, but I think my GR-55 just died. Let me see into this. Sorry, I don't have standby music, so it's gonna just a little bit of dead air. Have to love the real life, real time, live television thing. Luckily, my GR-55 didn't die. What it died is my noise blocker. Since I'm using a common power source for the whole pedal board, and it's, trust me, it's big and complex. The only way I found that it doesn't cost me $500 to keep the unit from not creating USB and ground loops on the power source is using this inexpensive, basically transformer-based isolators for the power. And seems like that the one I have on the 55 just packed up and died on me. So it was cutting the power. So let's try again before talking any more shite. So if I go to the control, to the program. Oh, sorry, because I thought it would be that, I also unplugged the USB. And because this could wreak havoc with other stuff, let me really there, hide that. Get me at a full screen. Let me check that you still can't hear me, since there's nobody out there to tell me. 1 2 1 2. Yes, everything's working. Well, you know, every time you plug a USB hot on a PC system, it's a gamble basically. If this one will work, what is it going to stop working this time? Yeah, that's not confusing whatsoever. Really? Okay, you want it the hard way? I'll do it the hard way. There. Happy, my brother? Cool. Now let's try for the last time. And try to connect. Okay, that didn't work. Well, it's not that it's not working, it's because when the unit reboot on this patch, which is the last one it managed to sync. So my order to change to the double string bass didn't make it through the unit, so I need to send that order again. Oh, wait, now it's disconnected. Why is disconnected? Really, if you start just taking short drinks or just gulps of your drink every time something doesn't show as planned in the show, God, you'd be hammered by now. Cool, let's try again, okay? So, block lead, bank 1, patch 1, double string bass. Is it gonna happen? It's taking a second. It's not happening. Why is it not happening? Okay, the editor is changing, the unit is not. Let's use another one. Octave unison. And this one worked. Oh well, let's do some noise. Let's make some noise. And talking about noise, one thing that I'm gonna start exploring on my own time, or on your time if you want me to, leave your comments below, is the fact that, going back to that, some people find it silly conversation about 4-string, 5-string extended, not standard, not extended, because many times if you're doing covers or some specific style limited, one style limited artists, they might ask you, yes, we need you to tune your guitar 2 steps lower for song number 7, but only for the chorus. And you go, so you want me to bring 2 guitars for every song, main and backup, but then either retune my guitar, which wouldn't be that bad, but not advisable, neck settings and fretting and stuff, for one chorus or for one whole song, at least. It depends how good are you on transposing a whole song that is not tuned that low in the rest of the song, is on a different key, and then for the changes to a lower key on the chorus. Or if you have one of the GR units, you can, and mainly through the custom block, through the custom engine, you can just program that retuning of the guitar, as in your guitars will not, your strings will not change, but what it will come out of the amplifier will be changed. So you would be playing, let's say A, you would be playing with your fingers A, the note A, and the amplifier would start spitting F. All right, 2 steps lower just by stomping on one switch, which is one of the wonderful things of the GR system, the virtual guitar and the custom technology. It means that you get keyboard-like transposition without having to mess around with these puppies or change guitar, take one guitar, give another guitar, because if you have a specific guitar for a specific part, chances are you will need a backup for the particular. So suddenly the amount of gears start cutting gets really, really expensive nowadays. So I'm gonna shut off the magnetic system. So this is my mix, this is my bass, my treble. I'm gonna just send everything, shut off the volume, and flick the switch, click, 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 to the synth position, because looking at this patch, remember how we change blocks and stuff, right? These orange lights are telling me which of the 4 engines are working, I turn on for this particular patch. Is called octave unison lead, right? So first thing we notice, because it's mostly the default for the whole unit, the normal pickup, the standard magnetic polyphonic pickup if you wish, although that's not totally correct, but you know what I mean. It's by default switched off on, I think it's 98% of the patches, both modes. As in, all the factory work they done is to show you the other 3 engines. And they don't even bother because it's designed to show you what the unit can do before you spend the long and sometimes tedious setting up your guitar time, so you can get the best of both worlds, and you can also use your actual guitar pickups in the patches that you want to use them. Plus, they don't know how are you going to use them. Do you want the real bass to be on top, or do you want the real bass to be behind, to be just a texture, to be rumble, extra low information, or you want it to be the lead and the rest of the engines are going to be backgrounds or textures to your bass? They don't know that. So when in doubt, just shut it off. So normal pickups is off. We're not using those. The custom, the modeling block is in, but it's in synth mode, so it's not going to sound like a guitar or a bass. As it happened on the guitar side, here the modeling can turn your bass into a guitar. And just because I don't remember, so yeah, we have electric bass, synth, or electric guitar. So we can change the type of bass. You can transform your P bass, your Fender Precision bass, into a jazz bass tone, or into a Rickenbacker tone, or a Thunderbird tone, right? So we got that modeling. Obviously, the one that now becomes smaller is the electric guitar block. And basically, okay, it's basically giving me 2 options. I can sound like a Stratocaster, or I can sound like a Les Paul. Although those 2 options have a fair amount of options to tweak them, but it's not the plethora of stringed instruments that you had on the guitar mode. You don't have banjos, you don't have ukuleles, you don't have kotos. Did we have a koto? Or something like that. You don't have acoustic guitar. It's just electric guitar. Make your electric bass into an electric guitar. Because even custom can faithfully or nicely or truthfully transform a generally dark bass tone into a bright, harsh, rhythmic, or even lead guitar tone. So they take away those options, so you don't get bad sounds. So let's go back to synth, because I'm not sure it loaded again properly. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load the patch again. I'm gonna close this module, and I'm gonna shrink the patches again, so we get more patch real state, as in all of it, including the capacity to turn it off. Right? And then we have is using both synth engines on the same sound. Simple, I'm gonna think triangle. So it's like building a mini Moog, as in 3 oscillators. Sounds like some delay, noise suppression, and little more. Is this gonna work? And let me show you the performance. Okay, no, it's not. Oh, I unplugged it. Okay, sorry, mixer. Don't you love computers? Because now, since I unplugged the USB, the mixer cannot find. The mixer can't find the sound, the USB sound output of the 55. So I need to tell him it's here. I'm muted. And we got sound. Because it's going through the audio interface in built-in 55, and it's getting to me through the USB, through the software mixer. Otherwise, I make a mess of double sourcing stuff and audio and not fun, trust me. What I'm gonna be playing, it's gonna be out of sync because the sound is getting to me probably even more delay that is getting to you. It might be getting to you in better sync with the image than is getting to my ears. So it's basically just not bad for a lead sound, not bad at all. Okay, that's a little too much, or a little too little, in fact. Okay, because I can't read the programs anymore. Wait, here. We'll lose a little perspective, but at least. Jazz Trio. This is surprisingly good behaving. So once again, it's not using the normal pickups, it's just using the custom modeling to transform my bass into a different electric bass. And the synths, one is a ride, a percussion sound, and the other one is a vibraphone, a jazz vibraphone, which I assume is just smoother and bigger vibration. This is kind of interesting to see the percussion mapping, because logically they're not putting every single note a percussion, because it would get very tough, very, very easy. So I'm on the second string. Remember, strings are high C, 1, 2, 3, 4, low B. Okay, so I'm on the second string. I got cymbal. Go to the third string. Still cymbal. Fourth string. Still cymbal. So I was wrong. Cymbal is everywhere. What is not everywhere is the vibraphone. So let's try again. Second string. I wouldn't call that a vibraphone. Here we get some vibraphone. I understand this is meant to be more like use a walking bass. And if you wish, some kind of lead. Because once again, the minute I go below the double dot, I'm back on guitar notes. Interesting, not too useful, not too applicable, but still useful and interesting. And that kind of brings me to the story I keep telling why I bought a 6 strings the first time. Because I thought, well, first the pickup can take 6 strings, so just for that reason, let's optimize the investment. That's how pathetic I am on my thoughts. But also because, well, if I'm going to be dealing with PCMs, I'm going to be dealing with Rompler type sounds or general MIDI, some call them, as in real instruments. Every real instrument has a greater note range than a 4-string bass, including a piano. Because once again, remember that we're not moving an octave per string. Hell, we're not even moving a 5th per string. We're only moving a 4th per string. So every extra string only gives me 4 extra steps, right? So on a very inaccurate and silly mathematics, 6 strings only gives me 24 notes. It's not like that, because it's not only the vertical movement, it's also the what we call horizontal movement, the alongside the neck movement, right? The scale, moving along the scale of the string, that on a bass, on most basses, also gives you another 2 octaves. So you have 2 octaves going down, and then 2 octaves going. Okay, you got. It's because I see myself in the camera and I see how my movements don't agree with my words. So you have 2 octaves going vertically down across the neck, and then from the nut to this double dot down here, that length of string, that's another 2 octaves. So that is 2 octaves, and this is 2 octaves. So all these strings are just to give me 4 octaves of musical notes range. All right? Which to every piano player is nothing. It's charm. It's scum. It's change. It's pocket money. It's nothing. For 4 octaves, everybody, even on synths, they want at least 5 to do interesting stuff, or two things at the same time. But on guitar, that's before the new trends extending the range even further. That's all we had. 6 strings, 24 frets, that was the limit. Nowadays, the physical guitars have gone beyond that. The 6-string guitars has gone as far as 9 single strings, adding 3 extra lower tune strings, so basically invading the traditional bass range. And bass guitars have gone 1 extra string higher, so not only 6 but 7, as in having a high C and then a high G. Not a G, well, it is a G string, but so because, sorry, no, so a high F, because it goes up in fourths. So it would be the low B, four standards, high C and high F. But, and that's a 7. But I also heard about 8-string basses. I think I even heard a few 9-string basses, but my hands are not the smallest, but neither the biggest. And this fretboard with 6 strings is already roughly the width of my palm. Think about adding 3 extra strings. Even if you make the spaces in between strings narrower, playing those extensions, playing those notes proficiently becomes a chore. So to me, they're more novelties than actual use it in a band context instruments, because most of these people with extended instruments are making a career in solo mode. They do everything themselves. They write their own music, they play their own music, they edit their own music, they promote their own music. They use no further members than themselves. They do them everything. Therefore, they can choose what to play in which instrument, which range, which octave, at what point of the song. They don't have to coexist with anybody else. But that was my basic thought about getting a 6-string. So I will get closer to a piano sound being able to be played in 4 octaves like a piano would. So if I'm gonna have the sound of instruments that use way more strings, so way more notes, I'm gonna be wanting way more strings to play those extra notes. That's why my first choice was a 6-string. Then I learned all the shortcomings of a 6-string, and that it really has no space on a standard band with 2 guitar players, a keyboard player, a singer, and sometimes even brass or anything. You need to share. You need to be conscious of the rest of the band members, and you run out of musical room to exist. So those are 6 strings and get never used. So my next step is 5 strings. At the moment, I'm stuck on 5 strings because I do want, need, and love that extra bottom B, that low B. And between you and me, I just bought a multi-scale 5-string, which is going to allow me to go even lower than B. That is B1, I believe. No, I think it's B0. Yeah, because I can go all the way down to E0. Yeah, we're talking rumble territory, basically. Not for conventional music, but for extreme styles that require ultra mega powerful rumbly sounds. That's why you go that low, and that's why you want the extra tension, and that's why you want the extended range. Cool. Let's find, just to make it sweet and short, let's get to Let's close leads. Let's go for rhythm. And let's do, whoa, this is gonna be painful. Shaker synth. In the bass mode, the rhythm section, what I understand is that the patches are optimized to do grooves instead of melodic lines and fast runs, right? Please notice we still don't have normal pickups turned on. That's never gonna happen. I mean, it does happen, sorry, when you go to, in fact, every factory block, let's show lead first. Every factory block, I think, is 10, bank 10 in this case, because sorry, that's another good thing they did with this unit. When release, as in the blue version of the GR-55, there's a blue version and a black version, the Mark I blue version, it came with only, in bass mode, only 10 banks. Basically, this bank that says for normal P, which means pickup, it was originally the last bank on every memory block. Sorry, on the factory memory blocks. Remember that the user memory blocks is the compound capacity of the other 3 blocks altogether. So, although those patches are in there, they're not in the same positions. They're not in the same banks, right? So, the block lead, the block rhythm, and the block other in bass mode, bank 10 of those blocks, it's always gonna be for normal pickup, which means that the normal pickup of the bass guitar is turned on, is doing something, is going through effects, which in this case is using a church organ with an analog organ, I assume analog synthesizer organ, a third synth in the modeling, and then amplifier and noise reduction. Yeah, bass amplifier emulation, and that's it, in noise reduction. Because the other yellow blocks are general for all the 4 engines. Okay, and that would be with the 3 positions in the GK3 just on the synth side, as in the hexaphonic side, means blocks, the engines 1, 2, and 3 only would be this sound. But if I flick it to the middle, well, if I flick it to the other end and I do just the guitar, I don't use the hexaphonic pickup, I would get this. If I turn the guitar on, I'm gonna keep everything at noon. And this is where I think that either have something misconfigured or my select. No, both selectors, I must have something disconfigured. Okay, let me check that and come with me. So basically, when I move the 3 positions switch, it should go to just the magnetic pickup. But here is playing everything. And in fact, I can barely hear the magnetic pickup, if any. Right, so let's see if I change anything in pedal. Yeah, I think that's the problem. I originally had all these options done by the system level, which is global for the whole unit, as in all the time I'm gonna be doing this job. And because I was when we were explaining about using the cycle and the envelope and the modulation, I changed everything to be related to the patch, because the patch doesn't have an instruction for those controls. Is basically not doing what it should do. Although this control I'm talking about, the 3-position selector, should be a mechanical works all the time switch, because I don't think I can control that. But I'm gonna try. I'm gonna set everything back to global level and ignore whatever the patch has for these controllers, which is well, sorry, not all of them. The control pedal is something you always want to be by the patch. Let the patch decide what that pedal is going to do. Same for the expression pedal switch. That's the button underneath the rocking surface. Expression pedal, while the expression pedal switch is off, 9 times out of 10 you want to be able to you might want to have some volume. Basically the volume that you're not controlling with the GK3 rotary knob, you might want to have it on the rocking pedal when the rocker is switched off. But because I know that some patches uses specific behaviors when it's off and then switch on and that's a different behavior, I'm also going to leave this as a patch selection. And same for this one. But these ones are the ones I want for sure, which are the buttons not on the floor but on the GK unit. So GK switch 1, the little square button on the top of the unit, I want it to be bank up, bank number increment, yeah, remember that with changing things here in system global. Then the second switch that is in the same spot, just at the right of switch 1, it's already bank decrement done. But the GK volume, the rotary wheel on the controller, I want to have it back to patch volume, yeah. Tone volume, it's basically the PCM. You don't get to control with that wheel unless you choose it at the patch level. You don't get to control the custom modeling, I don't think. But the patch is basically everything. It's kind of your master volume. I think. Because I'm not sure how does it behave when the magnetic pickup, the normal pickup is connected. So I want patch volume. Okay, so that is already set, is saved. And now on base mode GK, no, this is the configuration for the profile for the guitar you're using. Yeah, so that's not it. So if I go out of here, I still can hear, as I said, still can hear all the synth. What I'm gonna do on top of switching to just magnetic, just normal pickup, is to turn off the patch, which should turn off the modeling and the PCMs. So I turn it all the way down. and it's not doing anything. Huh, interesting. So what happens if I go to the patch level? That's what the master section is talking about. It's not the master for the hardware unit, it's the master control for the patch. And these have several tabs. GK set select. Oh, so you can change guitar profile per patch. You can set that in the patch itself, and when you change to that patch, it's already expecting you to plug a different guitar. The guitar output jack, it's overwritten by the system setting. So what I set up on the system tab is what rules. This is doing nothing about it. I don't have any alternate tuning. Video link is not active. I thought this should be a Harvard. Okay, pedal and GK. This tab pedal and GK is meant to be the setup at the patch level. That's why you'll see that it's very similar to the one we had in system, but the things I chose on the system level, okay, say override by system setting. So they don't give you any option to change it because the system tab is already ruling or overruling over this secondary set of choices. That would only open if I go to the system tab and then tell, no, all these parameters will be addressed by the patch itself, so do whatever the patch says. Control pedal, that's on the floor. Expression pedal switch, expression pedal. So because this is more concrete to the patch, I'm not sure they give you more options to choose from, but they give you kind of a mixer, a modulation matrix of which of the 4 engines are going to be affected by it, right? So for instance, the tone volume, I understand the PCM tones, sorry, well, in fact, all of the volumes are going to be controlled. That could be why it's not working. Are going to be controlled by the foot expression pedal while the pedal is off, as in you have a master volume there, which is controlling PCMs 1 and 2 and the custom engine, but not the normal pickup. So that one is not. So I guess I might be having a conflict. So is this what I need? Go back to system, bass mode. No, sorry. Pedal and GK. And let's go for tone volume. And now it lets me choose. Once again, this is global. So let me choose what am I going to be controlling. Because the magnetic pickups has its own volume in the guitar already, I'm going to say, hey, I want to control on every patch of the unit, PCMs 1, 2, and the modeling volumes with the wheel on my hand on the GK unit, right? And this should make a difference. So once again, my switch is down just for magnetic. I'm going to start with the volume open. Everything should sound. And if I now turn the volume down, no, it's not working. I just went to the pedal and switched and turned the volume down there. So apparently, that one apparently takes precedent to the wheel. I don't know why. But it's still not. Oh, okay. I think I know where is my mistake. Because I'm not getting the magnetic pickup, okay? So no matter what I switch on the 3 level, or no matter what I turn here on and on, I'm not hearing the actual bass guitar, the traditional doon 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 of the bass. And that could be in system, set up a MIDI, if you see here, there's 2, well, they're related but not really connected. So output select is basically what type of signal are you going to be outputting out of the left and right outputs. Remember, GR-55 only have 3 jacks of sound going out. One is label guitar. Also confusing because you can do more than that, but let's stick to that to understand it. One is label guitar, and the other 2 is just left and right. But left and right, since they're ideally designed to go to a stereophonic amplifications or a secondary amplification system, apart from the guitar out, which it's there technically to allow you to get the magnetic normal pickup sound straight out of the guitar through the 55 untouched to a primary or guitar specific amplification system. In this day and age could be anything, but traditionally it would be a specific guitar amplifier. So it would send a guitar level impedance signal, right? So high impedance, low volume, blah blah, although not too high impedance, so it doesn't drain tone on long runs, but is meant to go straight from that output to a guitar amplifier that would control your either standard guitar or bass guitar tuning. Because if it's a bass guitar, you might want a 8x10 amplifier, and if it's a standard guitar, you might want a Marshall. And you want a Marshall to process your guitar like a guitar system would do. And that would be the guitar out, ideally, technically. And the other 2 basically is for everything else, everything that is synthetic, everything that is generator in the GK6 hexaphonics. Sorry, in the GK3 hexaphonic. So ideally, you're mostly going to do, you should mostly be doing synth work with that. Means stereo sounds, organs, pianos, ambience, pads, whatever, but more on a stereo expanded. So obviously you don't want to go that through a guitar amplifier, which speakers and frequency range is restricted. You want a full range, all shebangs, all bells and whistles, and stereophonic system. And that would be what they call output. But they give you, because you know that between musicians usually live between a rock and a hard place. You have to make compromises more times than one, and you're not always going to have the 20,000 watts awesome full range PA to connect to your synthesizer. You might have if you're lucky, a secondary PA or just a stereo amplifier, a combo, whatever. That's why they give you frequency compensation curves in case you want to go to standard amps, guitar amps, bass amps that are frequency restrained or enhanced. For instance, most of the bass amps have a very big boost on the low end because that's their job, to handle the low end. So they got tons of watts on the low end, not so much on the high end. So if you send full range sounds there, it's either going to sound woofy and muddy, or it's just going to sound plain old nasty and wrong. So the unit will try to compensate on very broad strokes, as you can see on the image, to the type of compromise amplifier you're plugging, the left and right output. That's the output select. But, as I said, the guitar out can do more than one thing. First thing it can do is different things per patch. You decide per patch what that connection is going to be. Although you're not going to change where do you connect it to, but you're going to change what is it going to be feeding out. You can have it doing nothing, and I think if you select nothing is when automatically, and I'm going to try that, the normal guitar gets sent through the output select, the 1 and 2, so the left and right, and then is when the 3-position switch has the greatest effect. You can have, like it's set now, and we're not hearing because I don't know if I missed some setup, but through the USB out is not sending whatever you choose to send through the guitar out. It's only sending the left and right output. Whatever you choose to send through left and right, that's what the USB audio interface is going to send out. That's why I think that is why we're not getting the normal pickup. You can choose to have through the guitar out that one extra connection, the modeling, just the custom engine, as in you're never going to use the normal pickups. You gave up on the normal pickups. You're just going to be using whatever the hexaphonic produces, but you want the custom to go to a specific third amplifier or second amplifier that is not the one where the synths are going to go with the settings that the synths are going to have. Or you can have both. You can get the custom and the guitar getting out of that third. So I'm going to go for off. Okay. I'm going to go back to my patch. As you see, the engines are all on. I'm going to play a little bit, turn my guitar on, everything in noon, and I'm going to just play. My switch is just on normal pickup. What do we get? My volume is down on the floor. So what do we get now? We got everything, right? Good. Well, no good because it's not doing. Now I'm gonna turn the GK2, the GK3 knob down. What do I get? Same thing. I don't get it. And if I choose synth,
if I turn it down on the floor, I still don't get the guitar. I'm hearing switching. I mean, I can't discard that the cable has broken. That's why I'm not getting the normal pickup. Let me try to unplug and replug again. Couple of blows for good measure. Oh, that was a good crack. No, still nothing. Oh, that's both. Now I have the rocker pedal and the GK2 wheel doing the same job. They both shut the organs down and the synth, but none of them give me okay, let's go back there. Go for patch. I need to get down to the bottom of this because I do use very heavily okay, volume doesn't bring back the synths. Well, that's kind of what it should do, because my switch is on normal pickup. So if I switch to synth and I still can control it with the GK rotary. So that is working now. But if I switch to just normal, I don't get tone. Well, you can hear me bashing on it, but it's not sounding. That means that this show is over now. Wait, once again, 3 hours. Oh God. I'm never gonna change, am I? Cool. I need to spend more time because in fact, lately in between these shows, I've been busy with production, recording, and mixing and stuff, and didn't have much time to check all these in depth and troubleshoot deeply. I need to find out why is this. Could be the sound is going to somewhere I'm not aware of, or could be what I've been told is the most likely cause of either the cable or the connections, as in either the strands in the cable or the female connections in the 55 and the GK2 have become faulty, basically. The females, I was told, have a tendency to tarnish and rust, and by doing so they lose contact. Problem is they're very small, they're pin-size holes, and they basically need to be cleaned one by one. I've heard all sorts, like for instance, using a 0.5 mil drill bits in and out, rubbing all the metal and basically shaving off all the rust and tarnish. Obviously, you always have the WD-40 solution, what's the other one? the non-residue contact cleaners of all sorts of brands or models. Or as I said, as we said in in the gigging business, it's always the cable. So yeah, I have a secondary cable, and I should buy a backup cable so I can troubleshoot that way and further on. But this is your first contact with the bass side of GR-55. I'm sorry, it's not very musically fulfilling. Because melodically bass is limited, lead-wise bass is even more limited, and in this setup I am using to do the streaming, my latencies are not fine tweaked, so rhythm is really limited what I can do, because one thing is what my hand is doing and another thing what my brain is hearing, and they're not connected whatsoever. It's like when you try to talk with somebody while you're hearing yourself 1 second later. You suddenly start slashing your words, trying to sync both things, but they're never going to sync because there's a delay of some sort, some technological delay in between what comes out of your mouth and what gets into your ears. Modern technology, huh? Gotta love it. Good. I'm gonna let you go. If any of you are still there, I'm gonna just get a little peek. Let's get out of here. Come. Let's get out of here. Let's stop screen. Come back to me. No questions, no comments, nothing. Okay. Feel free to leave anything, question, comments. Correct me if I'm wrong. Please correct me if I'm wrong, because that's one of the reasons why I do this, to learn, to stop being wrong. And if everything comes together, we should be back. Why are you not showing me? Why are you not really? Come on. Here, sorry. We should be back Friday the 1st of August 2025, because today is July. Well, today was July the 4th when I started here in UK. It's already Saturday the 5th. Cool. Thank you so much. Please come back. Bring your friends. Bring your ideas. Bring your creativity. Bring your doubts or questions or suggestions of things you would like me to go through. If I don't know the answer, I swear by God, I move earth and heavens to find somebody who knows the answer and give it to you. If I don't have the gear, I'll try to find a friend or a friend of a friend or a benevolent contributor or Patreon that will help me to showcase that technology here or there, because you don't know where here is. But yeah, let's keep rock and rolling and guitar synthing. Thank you very much. Good night. You all take care.